Helping to battle the pandemic are Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg and his wife, Dr. Priscilla Chan. In an exclusive interview, Zuckerberg told us about his company's role in the fight. This morning, the couple is also announcing that their charitable group, the Chan-Zuckerberg Initiative, is partnering with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation on possible treatments.
You know, when we interviewed you a few months ago about CZI, one of the things you said that stood out to me, guys, was what we'd like to do is eliminate all disease in our children's lifetime. Boy, you certainly couldn't have seen anything like this coming. What are you doing specifically to advance that?
I'm really proud to share that CZI is going to be joining Gates and others to put together something they're calling the Therapeutics Accelerator to fight coronavirus. They're going to fund a group to screen all of the drugs that we know have potential effects against coronavirus. Figuring out drugs is always expensive, but philanthropy can do a role in kickstarting this. So we're going to be contributing $25 million with Gates and others to be able to get this started quickly and now.
Part of the idea here is that often a drug can be helpful against multiple diseases. So you can basically take all those drugs that have already been screened as safe and test them to see if they might also have a positive impact for either preventing the coronavirus or reducing the symptoms and making it less damaging.
I didn't mention one of the most exciting areas, which may still be at least 5 to 10 years away, are dissolving microneedles, in which instead of being solid and having metal or ceramic, once they're put into the skin, the vaccine has been embedded or encapsulated in the matrix, a biocompatible, non-toxic substance that's, when it's dry, it's sharp enough to penetrate, but as it acquires the moisture from the skin, it dissolves and the vaccine or drug can start to do its job. And then once you've pulled it out, there's nothing sharp left, even a microscopic projection of any kind. And this is very exciting. Work is being done now with animals. I'm not aware of any human trials yet of a dissolving microneedle. But for the most part, all of these devices I have mentioned and will be talking about are required to be sharp enough to penetrate through that outer barrier of the skin that's the key obstacle to achieve vaccination into the skin.
ID2020 is a global strategic initiative aiming to help deliver against the United Nations sustainable goal of legal identity for all. There are 1.5 billion people in the world who don't have a legal identity. No legal identity means no bank account and social exclusion. It matters to society as a whole. It's incumbent upon those that can to serve those that can't. It's going to be an annual conference up until 2030. There will be a mixture of non-governmental organisations, humanitarian agencies, technologists, innovators and policymakers. Technology cannot speak for itself. It requires innovators to talk to policymakers, and this is a forum at which we can do that. Legal identity for 1.5 billion people is complex. PwC does complex. Where would you start? Well, ID 2020 is simple and smart. The summit will look to examine the issues and to work out whether technology can be an enabler for societal good. Once a person has a legal identity, governments and non-government organisations can help people become safe, part of society, financially included and economically active. By bringing the right people to the table, focusing the debate and thinking of solutions that will affect up to a third of the world. The time is right to start today.
Revolutionize how we would prevent and treat disease.
According to Balaji Narasimhan, Iowa State University chemical and biological engineering professor, the Nano vaccine is a nasal spray that contains different strains of the flu. It gets into your lungs and recognizes the flu virus and kickstarts your immune system.
If you're immunized with a nano vaccine and you are infected with the flu, the cells that the nano vaccine has armed will now go and neutralize the virus.
Unlike the current flu shot that is time-consuming to make and egg-based and some are allergic to, the Nano vaccine is made right here using synthetic proteins. Doses for about 100 people can be made in about an hour. a flu fighter that can adapt and linger.
And the particles, by hanging around inside the lung for long periods of time, induce memory. So they teach your immune system how to recognize that virus if it sees it.
Realistically, it is at least 4 to 7 years away from the public. But when you're changing medicine, the wait may be worth it.
I guess there's no other way to say it. It is very exciting. It's really nice to be able to work so hard on something and see that it will have an impact on, even my family.
This is a great story. New technology being developed to administer flu vaccines, which could put an end to the dreaded injections. But the potential significance of this technique goes much further than avoiding an uncomfortable jab. The new vaccination patches could make life-saving healthcare available for the first time for millions of people in the developing world. The patch has 100 microneedles on its surface, each of the needles just over ½ millimeter long. But when they penetrate the skin, they dissolve. Researchers have been loading these needles with influenza vaccine, testing them on mice. So far, the results have been encouraging. The patch is more effective than using the standard needle technique. And as the tests go on, researchers hope people will eventually be able to vaccinate themselves. How's that? This will make the vaccines more accessible for those most at risk in poorer countries. And not just against flu we're talking here. Researchers hope the technology could one day be used to protect people from a range of other illnesses. Mark Pralsnitz is a professor at the Georgia Institute of Technology. He's the leading researcher on this project, and he says the skin patch could eventually help wipe out some fatal diseases.
Well, our hope is that this influenza vaccine patch will enable more people to become vaccinated, not only because we get rid of the hypodermic needle, which many, if not most people, dislike, but also because we hope this will enable people to administer the patch to themselves. That is, not have to go to the clinic to see a doctor, but rather could go to the pharmacy or even get this patch in the mail. The skin on our bodies is a good barrier. Things don't normally absorb into the skin very well, and that's why a hypodermic needle has to be used. So what we have done is we've made very small needles, microscopically small needles, that can pierce into the skin and in that way allow the vaccine to enter the body, but they're so small that you can barely see them, you can barely feel them. And what we're finding is that the technology seems to apply fairly broadly to different vaccines. So we're optimistic that the flu vaccine will be the first of what could be many different vaccines given this way. One of our large interests is for the measles vaccine and the polio vaccine, both of which organizations like the World Health Organization are trying to eliminate from the world.